Space Marine 2 is a damn fun game that I've really been enjoying lately. I've already pumped a bunch of hours into the game, so I thought I'd share with you a few tips and tricks I've picked up along the way. Let's not waste any time and jump right in. Tip number 1, break these unique crates. While exploring or spreading glory in the name of the Emperor, you'll often run into a bunch of stuff that's basically just pretty background art and offers no value to you or your team. However, always be on the lookout for wooden green crates that look like this. These crates in particular can be shot open or smashed apart and always contain goodies. They can contain anything from health packs to armor boosters or ammo. No matter what they end up having though, always be on the lookout for them and break them whenever you find them. Tip number 2, you can parry even if you don't see blue. Early on, the game teaches you that if you see a glowing blue icon on your screen, that is the indication telling you that you're about to get an opportunity to execute a perfect parry. And while perfect parries are awesome and really fun to do, you can still parry enemies even if you don't see that flashing blue icon on your screen. Simply watch enemies on the battlefield, and if you notice that any are lunging directly at you with a melee attack, just hit the parry button and boom, you parry. This really elevated my combat game a lot. Keep it in mind and start practicing it when you can, especially if you're using a melee heavy class. Tip number 3, parry windows vary between enemies. You might notice right away that the blue icon perfect parry window for when small trash level enemies jump at you from far away is super easy to execute, borderline impossible to F up. By comparison though, the perfect parry window on Tyranid Majors and other stronger enemies is noticeably smaller and much harder to execute. It isn't just you, it's just how the game works. You definitely don't need to practice perfect parrying small trash enemies, but you should practice your perfect parrying on larger, tougher enemies. Rather than mashing the parry button as soon as you see the icon appear with larger enemies, you should instead wait until you're much closer to the moment of impact, then hit the parry button. This can kinda vary from enemy to enemy, so again, practice makes perfect. Go out of your way to perfect parry the hell out of some beefier enemies and really get the timing down. And on that note, tip number 4, parry windows vary between weapons. If you're playing a melee focused class, you may notice that your melee weapons have a unique stat called defense. In short, the type of defense your weapon has determines the length of your perfect parry window. I'd recommend that if you want to start practicing parrying and perfect parrying, you start off with a fence weapon, which usually aren't as hard hitting as other variants, but you'll definitely get a way better idea of your parry timing. At the time of me writing today's video, I still use a fence variant of the power sword. Love that thing to death. Tip number 5, shoot the green globs. Certain Tyranid enemies will often attack you with projectiles that look like this. A greenish looking plant grenade that if left unchecked will bloom into basically a large clump of green vines all over the damn floor. If you stand in them for too long or if you walk through them too much, you basically get drunk on toxin and your vision gets reduced and extremely blurry and green. It's incredibly annoying. Prevent that from happening by shooting the little green grenades off the floor before they bloom into mind-altering weed vines. There's pretty much no reason not to. Tip number 6, always explore. Even though as time goes on you'll start to memorize and learn exactly where to go in each operation, that doesn't mean you should ignore side areas and avoid exploring. Exploring in operations is really important. You can find key items like armory data, which you'll need for leveling up your gear, or guardian relics, which allow you to self-revive if you fall down in combat. Or you could find the holiest of holies, the grinder grail, the gene seed. If you find and pick up the gene seed and finish the operation while still holding it, your fire team will get a quality chunk of extra XP at the very end of the operation. Hugely important for grinding and power leveling more efficiently. And remember, the gene seed won't spawn in the exact same place every time, meaning you really gotta be sure to look around and explore every side route, every nook and cranny, so you don't miss out on anything important. And on that note, tip number 7, give the gene seed to the bulwark. As we've gone over, completing operations while carrying the gene seed will give extra XP to the entire fire team. But dying makes you lose the gene seed, and when lost, you won't be able to recover it at all, missing out on literally free XP, a true crime against the Emperor. Therefore, it is hard recommended that you give the gene seed to whoever on the team is the tankiest player, and if you have one on the squad, that is probably going to be the Bulwark. The Bulwark, in my opinion, is the ultimate stay alive tank, and because I main Bulwark, I'm usually designated Seed Guy. There's got to be a better name for that. But if your team doesn't have a Bulwark, just hand it off to whoever the tankiest or most defensive player is. Heavy, tactical, whatever. And of course, don't be a total coward and not engage in combat, but be more defensive and prioritize staying alive at all costs. Tip number 8, use barrels to your advantage. When running operations, or the campaign for that matter, be on the lookout for these explosive barrels. They're basically free grenades. Shoot them to detonate if enemies are nearby, or just lure enemies to where the barrels are and then shoot them for free damage. Remember that the big glowing flowers in Operation 1 are also technically bombs. Don't forget to shoot them if you can. Tip number 9, don't dodge spam in boss fights. When fighting trash and common enemies, dodge spamming is usually fine. You won't often be punished too badly and can use dodging to get to cover or what have you. During boss fights though, dodge spamming will usually get you into trouble really fast. Boss attacks usually have very specific timing, and even though you'll likely be damn intimidated and want to dodge spam, be patient and fight the urge. Do it only when the time is right, otherwise you're probably gonna get your ass beat. Tip number 10, use the right melee weapon for the right job. There's more than one melee weapon in the game, and even though you might think, well, yeah, but they all serve the same purpose, right? Just mash enemies to death up close. That ain't really true. Some weapons excel at crowd control, while others excel at single target attacking. The Power Fist is a great example of a melee weapon intended for trash clearing, as indicated by the bar on the HUD over here on the left. Makes sense, it dishes out powerful area attacks. Meanwhile, the Combat Knife, on the other hand, is a speedy slice and dice weapon, ideal for dueling majors and single target damage, again, as indicated by the bar on the HUD. Don't just go for whatever melee weapon looks awesome. If you have options, try to bring whatever option handles what your team might be struggling with. Tip number 11, always execute. If you've just started playing, you may hesitate to run into a crowd of bad guys to pull off an execution. Don't hesitate. Do it literally every time. Not only do executions immediately give you a free stack of armor, but you get a ton of iframes in the process. Basically, the entire time you're performing an execution, even when running up to the enemy from a few meters away, you'll be 100% immune to any and all other incoming damage. Other enemies won't even be able to engage with you. It's literally always worth it. Even if you're playing a mid to long range class like the sniper, get that major or whatever the hell it is off the field. Execute every time. Tip number 12, understand contested health. If you're in combat, you might notice your health bar isn't always red. Sometimes your health bar will appear as sort of a white overlay. That right there is what we call contested health, which means you've taken damage, but you still have an opportunity to regen that portion of your health bar. You can do that by dealing damage to enemies. Do that and you'll see that you're recovering your contested health bit by bit. You're gonna have a window of about 2 seconds when you see that you have contested health, so be sure to act fast. Tip number 13, take advantage of gun strikes. Gun strikes are rare opportunities in combat when the game will show you this, a red crosshair appearing over an enemy. When that happens, simply hit the trigger like how you normally fire your weapon, and you'll automatically shoot the target in question without missing. On smaller enemies, they'll die straight up, but on bigger enemies, you'll often just stun them. Either way, gun strikes should always be taken advantage of because they'll give you a free armor stack when performed. Gun strikes are usually given right after performing a perfect parry or a perfect dodge, but they can also appear after dealing melee or area of effect damage. Always be on the lookout and take advantage when the opportunity pops up. Tip number 14, know when to use which grenade. Grenades are really efficient ways to deal extremely free damage and let you save primary ammo. You really should get into the habit of learning when to use each grenade though, as each nade works differently and does different things well. The frag grenade is ideal for insta-clearing mobs of low-level trash. Just chuck it into a crowd and bam, easy small enemy room clear. The crack grenade doesn't really do as good a job at ad clear, but it's great at single target damage. Chuck it directly at either a major or a boss like a Halo sticky grenade and bam, burst damage on demand. The melt-a-bomb is probably my least favorite grenade type, but it does have a purpose. The melt-a-bomb is ideal for defending choke points, or if you've run an operation a bunch of times and know that the enemies will eventually clump up in one particular location. Plant it down in advance, wait for the baddies to get close and then detonate. The shot grenade is kind of funky, but it's great if there's a bunch of enemies all clumped up together. Bonus points if you catch and stun multiple majors with one grenade, as you can then just take your time pulling them apart with ranged weapon damage. Extra handy if you have a sniper or tactical on the team. On that note, tip number 15, you can cancel grenade throws. If you're in a situation where you're lining up a grenade throw to clear out a bunch of trash, but say your teammate beats you to the punch, well, no use in wasting a perfectly good grenade. If you've still got your finger held down on the button and you're holding that nade charge, just hit the weapon swap button and you'll disarm the grenade and put it away for later use. Tip number 16, don't forget about trials. If you're a brand new player, this might be relatively easy to miss, but in the operations armoring hall, when you're making your character loadouts, check out the icon over here for trials. These are short solo training exercises designed for each individual class with the overall goal of letting you understand their kit a little bit better. In addition to improving your skills, completing trials can also give you in-game rewards, including armory data. Bang them out on each class, even if you don't intend on playing it that much. After all, free currency is free currency. Tip number 17, try this free health trick. Bear with me on this one because I'm still trying to figure it out. During operations, you'll often run into these stations where you can change between your pre-made class loadouts if you choose to do so. Apparently, if you're playing a bulwark when you go to one of these stations and pick the loadout you're already using, bam, free instant health. I've tried doing this a bunch, but so far the full health glitch only works if you're playing the bulwark. Kinda whack, but it is what it is. But at the very least, you can still go up to the loadout station, pick the loadout you're already currently rocking, and get full ammo completely for free. Anyway, that's all I got for right now. If you have any additional tips for your fellow Marines, share them down in the comment section. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!